going to go on before it gets better. And it could get better as soon as next season, but we'll come back to that. The Minnesota Wild. They're tied for the second wild card with their opponent tonight, the Chicago Blackhawks. That means this should be a very entertaining, hotly contested game. Goal differentials, Minnesota's got a -1. Chicago's got a +17. In terms of lopsided wins, Chicago gets more of them than does Minnesota. They both have 48 points, as you can see from them being tied for the wild card, and it should be a very close game. Chicago, of course, this is a back-to-back for them. Minnesota, it's a back-to-back for them. The only team playing that didn't play last night is Toronto. So we'll see if that's an advantage for them. It really should be, especially combined with the fact they're at home against Ottawa. So there's your two games for tonight. Now, there's other things going on. There's talk about Guy Boucher in Ottawa and his whether or not he's lost the room, whether or not he's just really frustrated with the whole process. I don't know how long Guy Boucher lasts in Ottawa, but Guy Boucher's fate, I think, is tied to Erik Karlsson's as well. I think for Eugene Melnyk as the owner, he's going to make this final call. I mean, Dorian is the guy in charge. According Melnyk will tell you that, and Dorian will tell you that. But I think in terms of these big decisions, which is going to be, what do you do with the coach? Do you keep the coach? Does the coach stick around? When you have your meeting at the end of the year with him, what is he saying and what are you saying? And with Karlsson, what are you going to offer him? For how long? And that is going to go through the owner. And then that's not even considering the Duchesne factor for next year as well. Maybe somebody sat Duchesne down and said, you're UFA at the end of next season, and he started playing better recently. But either way, Ottawa's got some big decisions to make. And Guy Boucher has been out of a job before, and he will eventually find himself out of work again. Good coaches get fired, just like bad coaches get hired. So that'll be an interesting plot line. And I think going into the trade deadline, it'll say a lot about whether Ottawa's going to do a rebuild or a retool. My guess is retool. My guess is that Dorian and the Brain Trust in the Ottawa Senators will say, well, we were one game away from the Stanley Cup final. We don't really need to rip it apart. We still consider ourselves to be close. We just had a disastrous first half of the season. These things happen. And then bank on things getting better next year, like Karlsson's foot being okay, that kind of thing. I also wanted to talk about the All-Star game. And Sidney Crosby's come out and said that he doesn't feel that he deserves to be there. He has 43 points in 44 games right now. He doesn't feel that he deserves to be there based on his play so far this year. I have no doubt that Sid's telling the truth, but I'm starting to wonder if we're going to see guys turning down the All-Star game this year. There's a fine involved. You get fined if you turn down the All-Star game, but it's not enough of a fine to discourage guys who want to take time off to heal up from taking time off. And considering the 3-on-3 format, it can be taxing, considering you could have a 4-day rest or you can go and play in the All-Star game. I don't blame players for not going. It's never been something that I've looked at and said, oh, that's terrible. I feel bad for people who pay big money. If you're paying big money to see Sidney Crosby and then he turns down the invite, yeah, that kind of bites. But there's enough star players on the ice to kind of make up for it. Also coming out of last night's games, Connor McDavid is echoing the sentiments of some fans and wants to get rid of offside challenges. He's not saying the goal wasn't offside. According to the actual rule, it was offside. I have said, other people have said, if a guy skates an inch off the ice, that's a ridiculous reason to call it back for offside. I do think something's going to happen with the offside challenges. I could see them being scrapped this summer. The problem with scrapping them, and the reason it may end up failing to pass if they decide to do some form of scrapping them, the reason that could fail is the technology is out there for us to see whether or not it plays offside. So you can go back and look at a replay and go, wow, that was clearly offside. That's how this all started. The technology is still there. So you're going to have the same fans who are complaining right now about losing an offside challenge. Next year would be complaining about, hey, that goal was offside. If we still had the offside challenge, we could go ahead and challenge that and get the goal called back. I agree that it's inconsistent, and I agree that it's frustrating, and it is causing results to shift. But when it's early on in the game, a team can reverse that. A team can absolutely, by just go in and score. As I said after that last game by Jersey, they had a goal called back. They just went in and scored right away after it. I'm like, that's how you react to a goal being called back. Like, call this one back then. But I think it'll get revisited. I don't know what the solution is, because for me, I want the call to be right, but I want the call to be clear. And I don't want to see it because a guy skates off the ice. I think that part of the rule should be pitched. If you're on the plane of the line, then you're good. It shouldn't matter if your skate's on the ice. It really shouldn't matter. Other news that people have been talking about is Cody Franzen got waived and sent down. Nobody claimed him. Brent Seabrook now is on his way in the same direction. The Chicago Blackhawks have called up Eric Gustafsson. Michael Kempney drew into the lineup last night. Blackhawks fans have been asking for Kempney to be in the lineup. We've seen more ice time given to a guy like a Gustav Forsling than he probably was perceived to have been in line for coming into this season. Joel Quenneville's got some tough questions.